the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. So my opinion about public schools is that they're garbage. They're teaching kids all the wrong things. They essentially teach kids to become Democrat operatives and protesters. And a lot of the kids that come out of public school aren't really doing very well. Now, I say that, and I just recently had a very good conversation with Ben Wynn, who just graduated from Lakota schools last year. He's certainly not garbage, very smart, and all the young people that are around him, the young Republicans, he's doing very well. He comes from a good family. He's a good young man. I really like him, Ben Wynn. Current school board member for Lakota, one of the better projects to have occurred out of the political movement in northern suburb of Cincinnati. Ben Wynn's a good guy, good young man. And he graduated from Lakota schools last year. He's now going to Miami University, and he's a school board member for Lakota. So he's a high achieving kind of young man. He's the exception, certainly not the rule, because a lot of kids are learning to be Democrat operatives in school, learning all the wrong values, and that doesn't mean they go into the public school experience handicapped in some way. The school system, as designed by Dewey and other socialists, progressives, communists who have been involved in public education from the outset. I was just in Washington, D.C. At the Department of Education, and they are everything I say about them is every bit then and then some. Garbage, terrible, oppressive building. All the employees in it are lost in the Stone Age. They certainly are not helping education move forward. When people say, but education matters, it's what you teach people that matters. If you're teaching people bad things, then they're better off not having that public education. They'd be better off in most cases not having public education at all, because they're not learning to read, they're not learning math, they're not learning philosophy and social studies, they're learning propaganda. Democrat propaganda is what they're learning, the 1619 Project garbage. And it's horrible, and it should not be paid for by taxpayer money in any way, shape, or form. The Department of Education is garbage. Trump, the whole movement, rolling it back and weaning the education system off of a centralized planning group, can't happen faster. And that's the direction it's all headed anyway. It's all going towards school choice by nature and necessity. And you can take one look at the Department of Education building and see this is a garbage product, and if it all cascades from there downhill, no wonder everything's such a mess. Garbage, absolute garbage. So I had some dude go back and forth with me on X, wanted to argue because we were talking about Amy Acton, and she's all, public education's great, we gotta fund more, and her and Mike DeWine are just throw money at it. Don't worry, we're helping the kids. We help the kids by throwing money at public education, but people aren't buying into that. People are not fans of public education, more and more than they ever have been. Usually, if a kid comes out of that time period of their life, it's not because of public education. They were great. It's because they had good parents. That's certainly the case with Ben Wynn. He's very good parents, good family structure, close with his brothers, with his siblings. Have a good family structure, and that makes good family people that end up going to the world doing good family things. You really need to have good personal family relationships at home to understand what it looks like and feels like. You don't learn that in a public education setting. I have yet to find people who really were redeemed by public education when they came from an environment where the home didn't function right, and they weren't getting anywhere else in any part of their life. And the public education system saved them. I don't think that's the case at all anywhere in anybody's scenario. I don't think that's true at all. So this guy on X was going back and forth because I was critical of Amy Acton because she's an idiot. And her policies are ridiculous. She was attached to the COVID. She's a lockdown lady. And her ideas of public education are just to appease the teachers union and get them on her side. Of course, teachers union people just want infinite amounts of money for very little work done. And they just want us to throw money at them, ridiculous amounts of money at them, for a really horrible product produced. And it's evident in the young people of today. Young people today can barely read. They barely understand anything about practical sciences or political philosophy, and they're not prepared out of high school to go participate in the workforce and do good things. It takes them a while to learn, and some of them are fortunate enough to struggle through it, but they don't come that way out of high school. Most of them are coming out with a garbage impression of the world, and they are taught that by taxpayer funds, and we're tired of it. And this guy sent me a bunch of text and was just trying to defend Amy Acton, which is impossible to do because she's, as I said, a complete idiot. But this guy was basically saying on X to me, the big loser in Ohio's primaries of this year, May 5th elections 2026, the big loser in Ohio's primaries was public schools. On 24 of 66, 36% of school levies, income and property tax, new revenue streams, and old ones were approved by voters on Tuesday, meaning 66 of the 24 levy attempts that were put on the ballot for voters to approve went down in flames. Only 24 of them passed. 66 of them failed. It's a lot. Not surprising, though. And then it's in quotes, says, something is gonna have to give some point in the future. Well, there's your public education person. There's a sentence for you. So this is what he says. Something is gonna, probably got that from a rap song, somebody's rap music. Not even a properly structured word. It's all slang. Not what you learn. It's what in public education you learn. I bet you the kids in school know the lyrics to Snoop Dogg songs, and they know the policies on pot more than they know the proper rules and roles that civics plays in their future well-being. This is a sentence that's by a typical public education student. Something is gonna have to give at some point in the future. Meaning that somebody out there owes public education something to keep producing bad products of public education. We got to give something to it. Someone's going to have to keep paying more money for escalating costs of public education because kids need to learn. All kids are learning bad stuff. So let's get into a little bit more about the details on this. So well over 50 school levies, which is, I think we talked there about 86 of them in Ohio alone. Well over 50 school levy and school funding issues failed statewide in Ohio on the primary of 2026, May. Roughly 1/3 or fewer passed. News outlets consistently describe the night as a broad voter rejection of school tax increases, both property taxes and income tax levies. Yeah. So the basic essence of all that is people are not voting for school levies. I have talked to several people who are close to the issue, and they've all said Lakota's going to try. Lakota just had their school levy defeated in fall of 2025. Here it is, spring of 2026, and they're voting in May to vote for another attempt to go on a school levy ballot. Likely they'll try August, because August they want these low turnover. That's why a lot of these school levies tried to get on the May ballot. That's why they didn't wait until November, when you're going to have a lot of people showing up to vote for the midterms, where you have higher voter engagement. They purposely look for lower voter engagement so they can slide under the door and hope low voter turnout will favor them. So all their union people and all the moms and dads looking for a free babysitting service will convince people to pay for their babysitting needs by sending their kids to school and paying for the extra classes and the extra things, the extra busing. That takes the burden off them. So of course they're going to vote for school levies. But the expectation is that everybody should be supporting these public schools. Everybody should feel an obligation to pay proudly for school levies, just to throw all this money at these teacher unions. And more, I've been talking about it for well over a decade, couple decades, but formally I've been out on the front line of this thing, talking about the ridiculousness of the tax increases that come off property tax and go into public schools. You got to totally restructure the funding model for public education, and I don't think public education should be free. I think you should pay as you go, just like a lot of these things. This confiscation of wealth and dumping it into this enterprise, these labor unions skim off to make an easy living for themselves and teach kids to be Democrat radicals. Parents are tired of it, and they're not voting for these school levies, and they're not going to. The school levies are a disaster. They're not going to continue paying for that whole model, and they tried to slide 86 of them under the door in Ohio for the May 5th primary, hoping that low voter turnout would favor them, and only 22 of the levies passed. Not a very high number at all. 24 of 66 passed. So that's not very much. 22 of 66, 36% failed. And the assumption is somebody's going to have to start paying some money. These schools can't keep funding themselves. Everybody's got to throw some money in the pot. People are done throwing money in a pot that doesn't work. People are tired of school levies and property tax incursions against them, and continuing to rise and pay more taxes. Everybody wants more taxes for government services that obviously are not working on our behalf. And if you want to know why it's broken, just go to Washington, D.C., and go look at the Department of Education building. Just have a look at it, and you'll see, staying outside the building, why it doesn't work. And then you're floating that down into this greater education culture. It's ridiculous. It's a completely broken model, has never worked, and it's producing poor results. Kids are not coming out the way that we expect them to. Educated well, it's they're turned into propaganda enterprises for left-wing politics, led by a teachers union that's radicalized to confiscate property tax wealth and redistribute it among themselves to advance leftist causes. While they don't have much to do as far as teaching, they have plenty of extra time to get well paid and compensated so they can go out and become left-wing radicals. And people are tired of funding it, especially in a red state like Ohio. They're on to the game. So most of those tax levies went down, and that's why. And if something's got to give, I tell you what that something is going to be: left-wing politics taxed to property tax confiscation. That's what's going to give. And that's what's going to go. And that's how it's going to go in the future. And school funding is going to have to, they're going to have to bring down their cost per pupil. That means the cost per paid to teachers on their outrageous payrolls. Talking about Ben Wynn again in the payroll for Lakota. You're talking about $250 million payroll per year to fund this ridiculous education system that Lakota has that doesn't put out very smart people. A lot of the kids are handicapped coming right out of public schools because they were taught the wrong things by a bunch of malcontent employees that aren't worth the money. They're not worth the property taxes we're paying. And something's going to give is that people are going to start voting no on these things routinely. And that's what's going to happen to the Lakota one. If they vote for it here in May, which they're inclined to do, as Ben Wynn told me, they did bring back public commentary. So you can get back on public records and make statements. So that's back, even though it was taken away because they couldn't control the commentary, and too many people came and said public comments that the school board couldn't control. And they didn't like that. So they took them away. Ridiculous that they did, but they finally came back. Ben Wynn had a lot to do with that. So did a couple of other people on the school board, which surprised me because all Democrats. And they did vote for public comment to come back. So it's coming back. So they're going to vote for another levy. People are going to try and slide under the door again because that's all they know how to do. And they're going to try and likely do it in August. So it's a low voter turnout. No one's thinking about school and education. And they're going to try and slide it under the door with a low voter turnout, which is a common trick. But these people in Ohio tried to do it for the primary, the May primary, and 66 of 24, or only 24 of 66 initiatives passed. Most of them failed in a big way. And to even get down into the details of some of those schools, some are pretty big schools that failed, which I thought was pretty interesting. So some of the more prominent ones that it just gives you a scale of the failure of all these schools that tried to get initiatives passed that failed. And this is what I'm going to say about Lakota. This is one of the reasons why so much money was raised, not just to defeat the first levy that was defeated in 2025. There's enough money raised to fight the next levy because everybody knew it was going to happen. And you got to defeat these things, otherwise these schools will never learn their lesson. Parma City schools failed. Barton city schools failed. Norton city schools failed. Streetsboro, which I've up by Greenville, I've seen them trying to get school levies passed up there for years because they go up for the Andy Oakley Festival to compete in fast draw events and bullwhip events. So I'm pretty familiar with them. And they're always out there asking for more money. They're very similar to Lakota in a lot of ways. So their levy failed. Wadsworth City schools failed. Pickerington local failed. Mentor schools failed. Strongsville, might remember and all these schools have their own share of problems, but they had a sex scandal out there. That's out by the Pennsylvania border. And they have a strong high school football program. I look at them very similar to Princeton City schools here locally in northern Cincinnati. Their school levy failed. Strongsville. Amherst. I just went through Strongsville City Schools. We just went there and had some business out in that part of the world and spent a couple days in that part of the world. So I know it very well, and people out there are inclined to pass school levies, and they failed. Plain Local, they had a bond issue, and it failed. Independence Local failed, and it goes on quite extensively. So what that means is people are not inclined to pay for these, even in an off-year election cycle where low voter turnout might favor the teacher unions who show up in droves. People are still showing up enough to defeat these levy attempts. And I would say here on out, that's the way it's going to be for Lakota if they don't learn to live within their means and cut some costs. And I mean cut payroll. Cut it down. Cut some administrators. Cut down teachers, the amount of teachers you have. Forget about the teachers union. Cut that back. Don't get the lawyers involved because all they want is to throw money at the situation. And that's why the taxes are so high. And when you lobby to keep conservative members off the school board, luckily Ben Wynn ran a really good campaign. He was such a nice guy. He's so charismatic, fresh out of the Lakota school system. He was such a good person that he was able to get on there and doesn't really draw a lot of enemies right out of the gate. He's able to work with some people, which surprised me because some of the people on the current school board who are Democrats, obviously, actually work with him pretty decently because he has the skills. He knows how to, like I always like to say, he knows how to make spaghetti in the kitchen. Ben Wynn's really good, and we need more like him, obviously. But he can't do it by himself because the lawyers essentially have been running Lakota schools for many years, and they cost a lot of money. Their billing rates are high, and Lakota throws a lot of money at them for a lot of goofy reasons. And you have all these radical union types involved in top-heavy costs, and that's why it costs so much money. Payroll is out of control at Lakota. Like I said, it's $250 million payroll per year, and they keep asking for more and more money. And that's the same story at all these schools. They all have similar payroll problems. And when we talk about something's got to give, because all these school levies go down, public education is not being funded by the people out there. They don't value the public education system. Let me tell you something. You have to earn that value. And public schools have not done that. They've worked against America. They're not there flying flags, making people feel good about sending their kids to those places. A lot of parents are upset at what their kids become when they go through the public education system. They don't like to see their kids radicalized and turned into a bunch of brawl-burning lunatics that are out there doing anti-Trump protests. They don't want that. They voted for Trump in most cases. And they don't like to see their kids being turned into propaganda arms of the Democrat Party, which is exactly what the public education system has been producing. And people are tired of paying for it. And there's your proof. It's not just Lakota. It's not just that Lakota has an effort to work out there and put some signs out to drive the defeat of these levies. Now, what's the ultimate fix? That someone like Vivek Ramaswamy comes in with a Republican legislature that will open up the competitive model, attach the money the state funds to the kid, and that the schools have to compete for the kids, not just the zip code. Just because they happen to roll out of bed in the morning, they have kids showing up on the doorstep, funded by the state because of the zip code they live in. That makes these schools non-competitive. They're not out there trying to earn enrollment. They assume enrollment because people bought a house in the district, and all they have to do is put up some phony grade card that encourages real estate to invest there. Well, I want free babysitting for my kids. We have to have a dual income in order to live our life, honey. Let's go to Lakota schools because they have a great free babysitting service, and we can both work hard to pay a lot of money for a house where $7,000 of it's going to go to property tax, but we feel good about that because we get free babysitting, and the community will pay for that. And that's essentially what it comes down to. And a lot of people are saying, you know what? I raised my kids. I'm tired of paying for everybody else's kids. And I'm tired of paying for kids to be trained to work against Republican politics, which is what you get out of the teachers union scam that is attached to all these public schools. And it wasn't just Lakota. It was a bunch of schools all over Ohio that voted no for more heavier tax burdens, taxes on their property to fund this ridiculous monstrosity, which is the public education system. And that's going to continue to be the case until you attach funding to children, and schools have to compete to have those children in their districts. And you're going to have to cut per pupil costs majorly in a huge way and bring down the cost completely so that it's much more competitive and you can earn that enrollment and not just assume that enrollment's coming your way and you expect everybody to just keep paying more money for an out-of-control system, which is what the public education systems expect, especially in Ohio. And people are not voting to increase their taxes for this ridiculous nonsense. And that's good to see. Anyways, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you will love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon.
Coming soon, the politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.